Pagination is one of those features that you see in every website. In today's video, I want to show you how you can implement it using React Query. So this is what we're going to be building together. We have a list of contacts, and at the end we have our pagination, so you can move to the second page and so forth. And you can of course also come back to the previous pages. And as you can see, when you go back to a previous page, since it was already loaded in React Query, it does not reload again for the user. So now let's jump into the code and let me show you how you can implement this with React Query. I also want to show you a really cool quick tip how you can improve the user experience, and that's by using prefetching. So when the user is on this page, we're already gonna load the other page in the background, and when the user clicks on it, there is no loading spinner, it directly loads. Okay, so I have here a project already set up for this example, and I have here a contacts table component, and this is where we're going to be implementing the pagination. So here I have already also mocked the data. So we have data, is pending, is error, and refetch, which are all used in the component. And obviously this is where our query comes. So let's start by creating a custom query. So I'm going to go ahead and create a custom query. Let's call it useContacts. And this is going to be a function that calls useQuery. And here, of course, we want to have a query key. So for now, let's just call it contacts and then a query function. And here, of course, is the place where we get the data from the server. So just before we continue, I just wanted to point out that there are two types of pagination. First, there is the server-side pagination, which means that the server already returns paginated results. So instead of giving you the whole list of contacts, you just get the portion of the contacts that is visible to the user. And then there is client-side pagination, which means that the server returns a list of all the users or contacts in this page. And in the front end, we're going to take that data and paginate it. So in this case, we're going to do the typical one, which is server-side pagination. In the query function, we have to make the API call. And for that, I have written a client that has a function called getContacts. And this function is actually just a mock function, but it has the exact same signature as something that you would have in production. So we actually paginate on the client, but the signature looks the same because it's an async function and it gets a page and a count as parameters. So the page is the actual page number we want to show the user, and the count is how many items we want to have per page. So in a typical application, you would do a fetch request in this place and then pass in these parameters as search parameters. And for this example, we're just going to say we want to have the first page, and I just want to have 20 items per page. And now we can use this hook inside our function. So now we can see the contacts in the first page, and we also have 20 contacts. Let's make it a bit smaller, and let's just have 5 contacts per page. Let's reload the page, and there you have it. So 5 contacts per page. So obviously we want to be able to change the page. So of course, these 2 parameters need to be added to the function. And for now, let's just start with the page number. So page number is going to be a number, and then we pass it inside this function. And inside our contacts table, we can pass in the page number. And here I already have a parameter for that, so let's just pass page. Now to be able to navigate to the other pages, we need to, of course, introduce a state. So instead of having a constant for this page, I'm just going to make it a state. So it's going to be page and set page. And this is going to be a use state with an initial value of 1. And since I'm using Mantine as the UI library, I am also using this pagination component, which takes care of everything. So we just need to pass in how many pages we have, which is the information that comes from the backend. Then also the current page. And of course, when the user clicks on a button, we need to be able to set the page manually. So here I'm going to pass in set page as a callback. And now we can change the page. But as you can see, this is actually not reloading because we have a small bug here. If we come back to our useContacts hook, you're going to see that the query key does not include all the parameters. And that's, of course, a problem because the query key is what is used to identify this query. So every time that the query key changes, React Query is notified that there has been a change, and then it actually refetches the function. So here we just need to add the parameter. So page number. And now we can click on other pages and then see that actually we are loading the data. Now the cool thing here is that because we're using React Query, when we jump back to the page number 2, which we just had open right now, the data is already there. We already got it from the backend. So we just show it to the user. If I jump to page 100, it's going to load and then show the data. Now, if you want to take this to the next level, we can already prefetch the next page, which means when the user is on page 4, we can already prefetch the 5th page. That way we also avoid having this spinner showing up. So in order to do that, we need to change a few things in our code. First thing we need to do is to get rid of this custom query and define query options instead of it. Now, query options have the same advantages of using custom queries, but they are way more flexible and you can use them in so many places. And that's one of those cases. So instead of calling useQuery, we're gonna call query options, which also comes from TanStack React Query. And I'm gonna rename this to contacts query option. And now in our components, we can grab these query options and call useQuery, and then pass in the query options as a parameter. So just like that, we have the same behavior as before. And now we can build in the prefetching. Now what we can do is to first start by grabbing our query client. And this is where we're gonna use to do this prefetching. And then we can add a use effect. And every time that the page changes, we can go inside our effect and call queryClient.prefetchQuery. And here we just need to pass in the query options of the next query. So in this case, we want to prefetch page +1, so the next page. And as you can see, when I go from page 1 to page 2, there is no reloading happening. But if I skip a page, so if I jump to page 4, then it's loading. But if I go to page 5, it's already loaded in the background. Thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in React Query, I've actually made a full course video on this channel, so you can go check it out. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.